Hello, hello. It is what is it? Sunday. I don't know what day it is. It's Sunday, April 22nd, 2018, and this is New Thought, New Life with myself, Kanaya Kennedy, and my co-hostess, Miss Versandra Kennebrew. Hello, V.
Hello there.
We don't get to see your lovely face today.
I'm trying to figure out what happened. There it is.
So for my folks who are
There we go.
on Facebook Live, we are on the New Thought New Life Facebook page live. This is just me here on my personal page. You guys can get a chance to see what's going on. But every week, Versandra and I, we come together to talk about A Course in Miracles. Yay!
Woohoo! Miracles!
A Course in Miracles, if you don't know, is an awesome text that creates a different approach to living and life. New thought, right? And when you think newly, you get a new life. I am a New Thought student for many years. I am an ordained minister. I'm a life coach. I'm a health and wellness practitioner. My co-hostess Versandra, tell us a little bit about who you are so people can kind of get a chance to know you.
Yes, I am a metaphysician and I have been studying new thoughts and studying, I guess, what would we say? I think it is probably unity principles. Some people know it as that. But basically, I've been studying this for many years myself. I am also a certified holistic health coach, and I've been a massage therapist for almost 20 years, and very happy to be able to incorporate what I've learned over the years because health is mind, body, and spirit working in symphony. It's not one or the
Mm-hmm.
other. And so, yes, when I talk about well being and wellness and providing services for my client, it incorporates all of these areas. So, like you, Kanaya, this is really something that has been profound for me as an individual. So, I have been a student of this. And as we learn in A Course in Miracles, the student is also the teacher is also the student. And so, we decided to come together this year to bring some of the most amazing, I guess, thoughts and principles that have really kind of guided us along the way so that we can just have a discussion and talk about it and see how we can grow together and bring about world peace. Woo! Now that's an idea.
Yes, yes. So for anyone who may not know, yeah, this is just a discussion, and we welcome anyone's contribution. If you have questions about what is New Thought or any of it, you can type it in because I'm on Facebook Live, so you can type it in here. If you're over on our Facebook page, which is New Thought, New Life, you can type it in there. To get into the discussion, you go through the little, put your email address in, and boom, you're right in there. You can put your comments and questions there. So we try to monitor that. You can even find us probably on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. Not so much able to talk so much there. So we would say use one of the Facebook channels. But yeah, if you've got questions, we're here. We definitely love to answer them. This week, we're talking about chapter 14 in the text. Last week, we did chapter 13. But really, if you have questions about anything, all of it is it's all good. It's real casual, you guys. So just to get us in the right space, we're gonna just open this up and get ourselves centered. So you could just take a moment, get yourself grounded. Also take a nice deep breath and release any kind of concerns or tensions that you might be carrying with you. We want to take this time to get ourselves centered in the awareness of the divine, Mother, Father, God, Creator, omnipotence, all knowledge, all power, all love, all everything, the source of everything, the creator of all, love and good. And as we get into this awareness, knowing that it is in us, it is as us, it is through us, it is always with us. And that as we move into this portion of our day during this time, when we've consciously chosen to come together to discuss and reflect on how this love, this light, this work can make a difference for us and the world, we know that we are guided and that this is good. And so we affirm that in doing our part to spread love and light, we are part of the solution in bringing everyone into love and light, which then, of course, results in world peace and happiness. And so it is. Amen and ashe.
Ashe. Yes.
Oh, so chapter 14. Ah! um, before we jump right into that, let me just ask you a question, okay? Last week, or just this past couple of weeks, like last week was around guiltlessness and guilt, right? And then this week was about teaching truth. Can I just ask, like, what has been there for you in the last couple of weeks?
Well, I must say that I kind of stuck with last week
Okay.
because they go hand in hand, because when you're teaching truth, the reality is you have to understand this ideal of being guiltless. And
Mm,
because I've been working on the audio book for Memoirs of a Homeless Healer, which is my memoir I wrote almost 10 years ago. And I began to look deeply as I'm preparing for that production. We're, recording on Tuesday, going into the studio and producing this audio book.
yay!
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But as I'm reading it and preparing to read it out loud for the first time, because when I wrote this book initially, I wasn't strong enough at that time to be able to read the audiobook. Someone else read the book on my behalf, because I just knew I would be probably crying all through the book, and I was still
Right.
really emotionally attached to the situation. And I hadn't had 3 years on the radio and all those type of things, and Toastmasters, all the things to prepare me for this, but now I'm ready. But in reality, as I was reading and just preparing myself, I started thinking about the idea of when I was suicidal. And I was thinking about how I wanted to end my life because of the feelings, emotions, the feelings of guilt, the
Mm-hmm.
feelings of inadequacy, the feelings that the ego had placed in my mind. And as I began to look at the Course in Miracles study from our previous week, I saw what was going on and why I was feeling suicidal. So I want to stay here just for a moment, because I just believe that there are people that are watching us right now who may be experiencing guilt
Guilt.
and
Guiltiness,
not
I guess.
feeling
Yep.
guiltless. And so
Mm-hmm.
because of that, it may be holding them back from their good. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just wanted to just touch on a few things that kind of jumped out at me, because, you know, anytime we're feeling things, it's almost like it's something that is being either projecting or something that really needs to be shared, because somebody else in the family, somebody else in the sonship is needing this information. And so maybe this is why I'm holding on here to this space. But I just want to say that it says, this is in chapter 13, section 1, where it says guiltlessness and invulnerability. I'm just going to read this short passage here. It's the first paragraph. It says, earlier I said the Holy Spirit shares the goal of all good teachers, whose ultimate aim is to make themselves unnecessary by teaching their pupils all they know. The Holy Spirit wants only this. For sharing the Father's love for his Son, he seeks to remove all guilt from his mind, and he may remember his Father in peace. And in peace, peace and guilt are antithetical, and the Father can be remembered only in peace. Oh my God. And so, as I was thinking about this, and it was really talking about how love and guilt cannot coexist. And when we're talking about truth,
But wait, V, can you just finish that paragraph? Can you finish it for me?
yes, 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 yes. Okay. Love and guilt cannot coexist. And to accept one is to deny the other. Guilt hides Christ from your sight, for it is in denial of the blamelessness of God's Son. So
Okay.
that is the end of that particular paragraph. So I was, I'm so excited. I'm like jumping. Love and guilt cannot coexist. Let's
Yes.
get that. Let's get that. Love and guilt cannot
Cannot
coexist.
coexist.
I'm like, I want to jump in, and I'm seeing you want to jump too, Kanaya.
No,
Come on, come on.
I just that part because that part that love and guilt cannot coexist, and that guilt hides Christ from your sight.
Yes,
Those 2 points right there are so key because
yes,
so many of us say we love others, we love ourselves, we love
yes,
God, but if we're walking around feeling guilty,
yes,
it's not really
yes.
possible.
Yes. And I'm talking about holding on to guilt of something that happened 30, 40 years ago in your life, that somehow the ego, because this is the only thing that puts that guilt and makes it feel real to you, is the ego. Because in
Mm-hmm.
reality, if you are a son of God,
And
and
we
we
all
all
are.
are, we
Mm-hmm.
all are. And if that is the case, and you have accepted that knowingness, then you know that there is no guilt in love. And God is love, and the Son of God is love manifested. There is no guilt. So now this is another part, because this
But
is,
I want to just jump in for people who are watching. Then we say
yes,
there is no guilt. It doesn't mean that there are no mistakes. It doesn't mean that
right,
there aren't things that we do that have let's say consequences and outcomes. But the understanding of what real salvation is and what it really means to be at one with the divine is that we don't have to carry that.
right,
We don't have to
yes,
carry it. And so and that's for yourself or for others. So that
hmm,
even means people who have been wronged, right? And there's all kinds of wrongs, right? There's all kinds of people acting outside of their awareness of who they truly are. And so they do weird things. That happens. But what we have to remember is that even when someone is operating outside of the truth of who they are, they're still not guilty.
hmm,
And I mean, that would bring into questions because what this had me thinking on last week was like, then what about our criminal justice system? Like taking it into the practical world, because that's what I tend to do. But understanding that it all comes from the perspective of love. If my brother or my sister is acting outside of who they truly are, then I do, out of love, have a responsibility to help them come back to the awareness of who they are. And that may
hmm,
require maybe separating them away and being like, right now, we can't have you in Gym Pop, right? Because you're unaware, you're out of your mind. Like you're so far into the ego and having the ego control you that we need to love you into your right mind. But
hmm,
think about if our criminal justice system or if our penal system was not even that, but if it was more rehabilitative, if it was a love system, if it was to get back into your right mind system,
hmm,
that would be a totally different experience.
hmm,
Like it would shift if we really got there is no guilt and that we are love, that would just shift the way we do almost everything.
it
Like,
would.
I mean, I can't think of an area in life that wouldn't be impacted if I could always have myself come from the space of that I am love, you are love, there is no guilt in that anything someone does that is like not that, they need to be loved through it.
Yes,
But go on.
absolutely.
You just got me started talking. I was asking you was there for you.
Exactly. And then just skipping down just to the third paragraph, this kind of gets a little bit deeper into this. It says, as you look upon yourself and judge what you do honestly, you may be tempted to wonder how you can be guiltless. Just what Kanaya just said. You wonder that. Is it possible that I am guiltless even though you're looking at something and you seeing that, oh, maybe this is not quite right? Yet consider this: you are not guiltless in time, but in eternity. And why does this point even stand out here? Why is it even necessary to say this? And that is because we are not these physical bodies that we walk around in every day only. This is only a part of who we are in this space and time. But eternity, we are spirit beings and we are God as spirit, and we are not just the physical body. So you have to think of yourself beyond just the body. If you only think of the body, then you are only thinking through the eyes of ego. So it says that you have sinned in the past, but there is no past. The past is merely an illusion. It is something you created in your mind. So therefore, it doesn't even exist. Always has no direction, always has no direction. Time seems to go in one direction, but when you reach its end, it will roll up like a long carpet spread along the past behind you and will disappear. That's what the past does. It disappears. As long as you believe the Son of God is guilty, you will walk along this carpet believing that it leads to death, and the journey will seem long and cruel and senseless, for so it is. It is long and cruel and senseless because it is an illusion that you have created through the ego thoughts. And so this right here was very, very powerful. But I want to just skip along because when I began talking about my thoughts about this, the first thing I mentioned was suicidal thoughts. And so this is what came about. Now, this is in section 2 when it talks about the guiltless Son of God. It says that, let me see, when is the part where it says about, there would be great. Okay. Okay, here it is. This is section 2, paragraph 1. It says the ultimate purpose of projection is always to get rid of guilt. Yet, characteristically, the ego attempts to get rid of guilt from its viewpoint only. For much as the ego wants to retain guilt, you find it intolerable. Since guilt stands in the way of your remembering of God, this comes from that first section. We're just looking back on it again, but you cannot remember the God self within you if you are guilty. But it says, since guilt stands in the way of you remembering God, whose pull is so strong that you cannot resist on this issue, then the deepest split of all occurs for us. Let me see, I got to say this right. The deepest split of all occurs, for if you are to retain guilt, as the ego insists, you cannot be you. You cannot be the Son of God. You cannot be God manifested. Only by persuading you that it is you could the ego possibly induce you to project guilt and thereby keep it in your mind. So the ego's job, its primary role, is to have you confused about who you are. And in that confusion, that guilt or that guilty feeling makes you separated from God, from your source, from the creator of all things. And then you remain in that mindless, that state of illusion, that state of craziness, that state of separation and split. And that's where the power of ego lies. It's keeping you confused and separated. And as you remember who you are, as a light is shined before you, whether it be you tuning in to New Thought, New Life, or you meeting or interacting with someone whose light is shining so bright and it shows you yourself, it shows you God, it shows you where you are in the sonship. As you see that light, then it goes back to in the beginning of this book where it talks about repenting, or it also talks about, when it talks about repenting, it's talking about also atonement. Atonement is the key word, the at one meant. When it talks about that, then you are in a place where you can self correct. This is a place where you find and you realize who you truly are. And in that self correction, you feel that space of darkness. You feel that space of illusion. You feel that space of disconnection from the source. And you fill it up with love. You fill it up with love till it's filled to its capacity. And at that point, now you can move forward and you can shine brightly and you can actually rise up above any of the thoughts or illusions that have been in your mind that's kept you separate from the source. And this is the truth. This is the truth.
So I want to just jump in here because one of the reasons I ended up becoming ordained and going into ministry was because I became quite aware that we can do all the coaching we want. We can do all the therapy we want. We can take all the herbs and spices we want. We can take all the medication we want. But ultimately, most of what we're dealing with in terms of sickness and disease, whether it be mental illness, even physical illness, it's a mindset issue. Yes. And so if we go back into how we're typically raised, and whether or not you were raised in the church or not, you're raised in the soup or the sauce or the air, or the water of this same kind of mindset. It's one of guiltiness and unworthiness, right? Like what we, well, at least what I was traditionally taught. And this was once I got out of, I got to, but part of the beautiful part of my journey is I started off reading Bible stories, but the stories were all about like this loving, awesome, powerful God, right? I didn't have this conversation of original sin. It wasn't something that I was taught when I was very little. And it wasn't until I left the children's ministry and got into like the young adult and the adult ministry that this whole conversation of being sinful and bad, and I was like, it didn't vibe with me, okay? But for the majority of people who are raised in really most religions, well, no, let me not say that. We'll say some religions. Well, I'll just, you know what? I'll leave it to Christianity, right? And America being a loosely Christian country, we'll say. There's this conversation, loosely, and even what they teach being called Christianity, but we want to get into that right now. But the idea that this idea of the fall of man, right? And the idea of that, like, we had to have someone, in this case, Jesus, come and atone for us and take on the sin. Like we're raised to believe, and socialized to believe that somehow we're unworthy. But then if we go even deeper as women, we're raised to believe that we caused the fall of mankind, right? And so then we're taught to carry that guilt. And then it's even written in this text that somehow we're punished. We're punished for it with pains in childbirth and whatnot. So there's this constant teaching that we are bad, that we are wrong, and that we are guilty, and that we are constantly being punished for this perceived badness. And we carry that through life. But what it says right here is that guilt and love cannot coexist. So those teachings alone, truly, they keep us from really knowing who we are. And so then that sadness and that frustration and that pursuit of happiness that most of us do in the sensory realm, where we're trying to buy stuff or we're trying to take things or do things to fill us up, to make us feel happy, comes from because we were taught from the beginning that somehow we're not loved and we're not enough. And so whether it manifests as suicidal thoughts, because I've been there, I was very young, but it was when this whole thing started happening for me, the same age range. Once I left like the beautifulness of childhood, and that was my blessing, to be raised in a home of love, right? And I get that everyone didn't have that, but that's how I was raised. And when I transitioned and it was kind of like, what's going on? All of a sudden, I'm not okay. It was like a reality break of like, well, I don't like this world, and I don't want to be here, and I didn't. I was about 12 years old, and I was just like, this is not for me. I don't want to be here, and God did not align with that, and so my attempt to leave this world was rejected. And so I'm still here, and I'm clear that I'm meant to be here. But that too was part of the journey, to really be able to understand why someone might want to check out. We're here to spread love and light now, and that happens in many different ways. I mean, that was in this week's chapter, this idea that we are here to spread love and we're here to spread light. And it was so interesting because I read A Course in Miracles first almost 10 years ago. And but I read it back then, and that information is carried with me, which is, and now I get why I have this Love and Light ministry. It's a result of reading this years ago and getting like why I'm here. But I didn't necessarily stay present to everything in the text. But you only have to be awakened once.
Yes.
And it always is there. And then anything that's not that, you're like, this doesn't feel right. And so that's just been with me most of my life, which has definitely set me aside. And so in the text this week, like in chapters 14, it's just one of the things that jumped out at me. I know we're in 13, but it's that there's two things. It's that God was like, you're never alone. And it's sometimes it can occur that way because in this physical world, sometimes the way we think and how we are can make us feel like we're by ourselves. But that's because we're walking around in this guilt, and then that guilt keeps us separate from God. God truly is always with us because God is us. God is in us. We're just an expression of it. But when we're walking around in this illusion that we're bad, wrong, guilty, unlovable, like whatever, it's a really horrible existence. And we all deal with it in different ways. But I was just in some training this weekend. Some of us try to shop it away. Some of us try to eat it away. Some of us try to sex it away. Some of us try to work it out away. I mean, there's all those addictive behaviors, things that we do that ultimately are not for our highest, best, and good. All of it is an attempt to fill this emptiness that never has to be there in the first place, because you're not alone. You are loved. You are good. And we are all good. Even when many of us are not aware of it, we don't act like it. Yep, even some people who are in positions of power who are right now so consumed with the ego. I'm not gonna say it makes it hard to love them. I'm not, because it's not hard. It's just how it occurs to me is it feels like, how do we get them to know the truth of who they are? But this is there's no guilt. And this idea of the past doesn't exist, nor does the future. That really, all there is now. And one of the first books that I got turned on to inside of this level of work was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. But back in 2007, when that book popped up, I was not ready for it. I could not understand what it was talking about. But at the same time, I don't know if you're familiar with that landmark is based on New Thought Principles. Okay. And when I started going deeper into that curriculum, and I was like, okay, let me find out the source of it. And I realized, oh man, the source of it is New Thought Principles. I was like, well, it makes sense. And the idea is that the reason our future and our present look so much like the past is because we're stuck in the past. We haven't learned forgiveness, you guys. If I stay stuck, if any of us stay stuck, but if I stay stuck in this conversation that, when I was 12 years old, all of a sudden I started being bullied, because I totally identify with this bullying conversation. But what I don't identify with is how we're teaching kids to deal with it, because it's not empowering, but that's a separate conversation. But if I stay stuck in that feeling of like, people will make fun of me, I'm different, I'm not like everybody else, the way I speak, I move, I dress, the things I like to do is not normal, whatever. My entire life was reliving that. So from about age 12, you guys, up until now, maybe a year or two ago, I don't know, right? It was still present of like, you're different, you're weird. People, if they know how you really are, won't like you. So what that meant for a long time was me hiding the authentic me, because I wanted to be accepted. But the problem was that people could sense the inauthenticity, right? And so then that had them be kind of like, what? And I knew I was being inauthentic. And so it'd be like, I have to be on guard all the time. Oh, don't say that, because if I say that, then they're going to know. I mean, even inside my spiritual beliefs, I didn't feel like I could really talk about New Thought. I didn't feel like I could talk about my belief system because a lot of my family are very traditional Christians. And then other people who I've met in different areas, for example, I got certified as an Egyptian yoga instructor, but a lot of them are interested into like ancient African religions and other religious traditions, and they're anti-Christianity. But I'm not anti-Christianity. I'm to true Christianity. I'm actually to the actual teachings of Jesus. I haven't called true Christianity. I'm into the teachings of love that Jesus taught, right? That particular messenger and all the real great ascended masters taught. Because it's not about Jesus. It's not about Buddha. It's not about Krishna. It's not about any of those individuals. It's the message they brought. But I didn't feel like I could say that to the world. Oh my God, if I say that, I'm gonna be crucified. I'm a heretic, right? Or if I say that I don't believe Christianity is bad, then the pro-black people will reject me, and I won't be included in that community either. And so felt like, well, where can I find my tribe? And it took me understanding you won't be able to find your tribe until you find yourself. You have to be I have to be willing to love and accept me and to give up what happened back then. So what if back then people made fun of you and tried to come for you? Here's the reality of it is that they did not succeed, did they?
Right.
Not really. But as long as I stay stuck in the past and carry that hurt and that feeling of rejection and being different with me, that was a version of my present and that was my future. Because it's all because I was stuck there in the past. Holding on to unforgiveness in your heart of yourself and or others, it keeps you trapped in a cycle. And that's hell. Because you were trapped in this cycle, but you at any point have the ability to free yourself. But you can't do it if no one's willing to talk about what it takes. And this is what it takes.
Yes, yes. That is so powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that, even that personal testimony, because it is through our testimonies that we are really able to allow people to see themselves. Because basically, that's what it is. We are a reflection of you. You are a reflection of me. And as you were speaking, the word judgment just kept popping up in my spirit because really that's what we're doing. We're judging ourselves, we're judging other people. You don't know what's going on in that other person's mind. You don't know how God is being and speaking and living through that person. And when you make those judgments and stuff, even of yourself, then basically what you're doing is just setting yourself up. And I thought about the movie. I think I mentioned it last week to you, but Come Sunday, and Bishop Carlton Pearson, he's in this story telling his. I mean, oh my God, he was
this exact journey.
Yes. His ministry
is what had me afraid. I'm gonna be totally honest with you because I know him and his wife. I remember when this was going down, and he had the audacity to start speaking truth.
Yes,
and he was crucified.
Yes,
because he was, but he had to. But at the end of the day, he was resurrected. I mean, to really we want to use the terminology, but he had to be willing to give it all up.
Yes.
For truth. Because this world is not based on truth. Most of our religions are not based on truth. And I'm gonna say it because it's on my heart and I gotta say it, so it's fine. Most of our preachers who have gone to like a theological school, like have got like a master's of divinity, they know this.
Know the truth.
They know the truth. And what you have to deal with, because I was in a seminary program, we talked about this. What you have to begin to deal with is that if I speak this truth, I could be crucified. I will be rejected. And what none of us want, that's one of our biggest fears. Because the way God designed it, we are all one. And so any feeling of being separated is very scary. But what we're trying to be included in is not even God's world. But that's what we don't always know yet. But they know it. And so if you look at the statistics, many people who go to seminary programs drop out and they become atheists or they become agnostic because they're then left questioning. If everything I thought and was taught that led me to the seminary program and to want to be a teacher of truth isn't true, well, then what the hell? And so this man lost it all. He lost his association with his denomination. He lost his church, his livelihood. But he had to, but he was also convicted to speak truth.
Yes.
And so it doesn't say that choosing to be authentic and to walk in truth is going to be easy. No, that's what the teaching of Jesus shows us. Or even if you leave it from Christianity and you look at Buddhism, the journey of the person who became known as Buddha wasn't easy. He had to forsake everything, all his position of wealth and power in his kingdom. He left it and began to pursue at least 6 years. I don't remember the exact number of like true hardship. Everything from, oh my God, I can't get the word, but where you deny yourself food and the comforts is the word for it. Is it ascetic? Ascetic? But look it up. It's a word. Starts with A. But whatever. He studied with many different masters searching for truth. So it's not that it's easy, but if you're doing it, you also have to know that God always has your back. Yes. And that nothing that folks in this world can do ultimately matters, because this isn't even real. It's not worth it. I mean, how many people do we know who are rich in this world beyond our measure and still miserable? You can get, the ego will tell you need more money, you gotta be beautiful, you gotta be all this, and you have all that and you'll still be miserable because you still don't have God and you don't have love for yourself and you don't have love for everyone else. Because that's the only thing that has any value. The only thing that has value is love. Everything else is illusion. This computer has no value. This phone, none of this stuff has value. Right. It's not important. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with having stuff, but the stuff doesn't really have value. If you ask me, you can have everything that this world has to offer, but you must give up the love of yourself and others. I'm like, no deal. Because it's not even a question. Right. But that's not where most of us live. We would give up all the, you look on Facebook, people be like, kick a cat or get for $10 million. Ridiculous. What would you do? Kick a cat, and people like, that cat's gone, I'm gonna kick this. It's like you're gonna kick a cat for $10 million. And we don't even think about it. It's like it's ha, but it's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny. It's not funny. Because you're saying that $10 million is worth more than loving that cat.
Or loving God.
Because the cat is a creation of God. Yes. And it's like, what? But people will say I'm crazy because I wouldn't take $10 million to kick a cat. Yeah. And that's how warped this world is. And this is the thing about it, when it talks about being awakened, because that's what's going on right now. See, if you're watching this and you're hearing it, it's because it's time for you to wake up. Yes, it is. Or you wouldn't even be here right now. You wouldn't even be here interested in it. It's time for you to wake up and start to look in your life and be like, man, what do I really value? Am I being loved? Do I love myself? Am I loving to others truly? Am I willing to trade love for stuff? Am I willing to lose it all? Because Bishop Pearson had to lose it all. Yes. Yes. But what he got, but if you ask that man, was it worth it? He'll tell you yes. To not have that split you talk about, to not be double-minded, to not know the truth but live a lie. So many churches, you guys, the history of many religions and churches are just so screwed up that it's even the followers, we're not even like, it's not our fault per se, but at the same time, it is our fault because we're 100%. You know in your heart when something's not right. Exactly. But what we teach everybody is to deny that. You know what's right and good. You know it. It's not, you know it. You know it. Girl, I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. Go ahead.
Hey, all I know is I want to pull together the purpose in A Course in Miracles is to not only give you a text to read, but give you exercises or treatments, if you will, that can help you
Yes.
to basically move past where you have kind of found yourself. But there are lessons, and each lesson.
Lessons.
Yes. And so one of the lessons that jumped out to me after reading over this, and lesson number 62 is where I want to draw your attention to. It says, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. Now, this is, kind of two part, because if you did not get the one lesson that says, I am the light of the world, and you don't really that hasn't like taken over your entire being, that you are the light of the
Light
world,
of the
then you
world.
might not get this whole thing. But forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. It goes on to say that it is your forgiveness that will bring the world of darkness to the light. It is your forgiveness that lets you recognize the light in which you see. Forgiveness is the demonstration that you are the light of the world. I'm going to repeat that. Forgiveness is the demonstration that you are the light of the world. Through your forgiveness, does the truth about yourself return to your memory. Therefore, in your forgiveness lies your salvation, or your reconnection and awareness to the divine presence within you that is nothing but love. And so, yes, forgiving yourself first. Because when you're talking about the whole concept of you feeling guilt, you have to start with the forgiveness of you. You have to forgive yourself for allowing ego to take control,
Mm-hmm.
because that's really what you did. You gave control to the illusion. And you forgive yourself of that once you see yourself, once you see, oh, I am not being me. I am not being my true self. I, stated earlier in the form of a poem, I am the quintessence of the divine, most perfect of all creation, with power to produce at will seeds that multiply like ripples in an ocean, the personification of I am, beautiful, radiant, absolute, and undeniable. I am love. Whenever I forget that truth, I have to go to a place of forgiveness, because I have to forgive myself, and I have to step into the truth that I am the light of the world. And you
Mm-hmm.
cannot shine your light brightly when darkness is all around you. So you have to forgive yourself. You have to forgive 45. You have to forgive the people on your job who are doing
Mm-hmm.
things that you think are against you and that they have wronged you in some kind of way. You have to see that they are wounded souls. They are wounded souls. The essence of them is still love, no matter what they are demonstrating. The essence of them is love, but their soul has been wounded. And so, how do you heal a wounded soul except by divine love? Only through divine love can that soul be healed and brought back to its essence. So, that is what Kanaya said in the beginning of this session. We have to be in this place of love. This place, we have to just soak ourselves with it. If it's with these words, these lessons, and just repeating them through affirmations over and over and over, you have to, when you find yourself being filled up, or you get this itchy feeling, get this stuff going on inside, you just have to just wash yourself. And I love the shower for that reason. I love my
Mm-hmm.
baths too, but I can get in that shower. I turn off all the lights. I light a candle. I'll get my relaxing music going on. And it's almost like I am, being cleansed, They call it a
Yes.
baptism. I
Mm-hmm.
am baptizing myself symbolically with this shower, this water just raining over me, just being cleansed
Yeah.
of that mind that I had allowed to come in and kind of take control. And I am basically giving myself over again to the source, to the essence of love, because I know only in that space can I be restored to myself. And so this is what we invite you to do today. We invite you to be cleansed. And it's you don't have to go anywhere to be cleansed. You don't have to go to some special person and say, "Oh, will you
Mm-mm.
please cleanse me of
Cleanse
this
me.
evil?" You don't have to do that. Once you recognize and acknowledge, that's the first step. You like, something's not too cool. And then you just say, because out of your mouth, you speak life. You speak life, you speak love, and you speak it into your own being. I am cleansed. I am free. I am whole. I am divine. I am love. Speak those things to yourself over and over until you feel that you have been renewed. And at that point, you go on about your business, being the light. You don't
Yeah.
have to do nothing else. Just be the light. I'm
And
sorry. I
be
get
no,
excited.
it's not because it's but in being the light, this is and so well, two things for me. One, it's easy to say that when because we've been doing this work, right? And we're like,
Mhm.
but we come up against when you're just starting on this journey, sometimes it can be a challenge to find the good things to say and affirm. And so
Mhm.
this is why having resources to help you fill yourself up are important. There's a reason that spiritual guides and teachers exist, not because they're teaching you how to be spiritual, but they can help you come into the awareness. That's why this is such a great resource.
Mhm.
It comes with the lessons. It comes with the affirmation. It's already built in. This is
Mhm.
designed, there's 365 lessons. So you do not have to do a lesson a day. I don't do a lesson a day because some days I need to sit with a lesson and be like, say what now? But it
Ooh.
literally gives you daily something to speak that's going to help you become aware of the truth. So, for example, one of the things it was like, I don't know what anything is for. As I was reading that lesson, it was so funny because it gave the example of like, we don't mean that you don't know what a telephone is for. Obviously, you know that a phone is to make phone calls. But what you don't even know is why it's important to call people. You don't understand what it is you're supposed to be doing with the tools we have. The internet is great, but here's the question. Social media is awesome, but what are you using it for? Do you use your social media outlet, your channel, your influence to spread love and light, or do you use it to spread death, destruction, and mayhem?
Gossip.
Yeah, yeah. Do you share affirmations daily, or do you forward people videos of people fighting and doing all kinds of crazy stuff? Who are you being? What are you putting forth in the world? One of the things in this week's chapter, in chapter 14, it talked about every moment. I wish I could find it, but it doesn't even matter. I'll paraphrase it. But it talks about every moment, second, minute of the day and hour is you choosing between God and the ego.
Mm. Mm.
Every moment. That literally is what's happening. You're choosing moment by moment in what you say, what you do, how you be. God or spirit. God or ego. God or ego.
Mhm.
It's like don't even try to make any decisions on your own.
Mhm.
Because if you try to make a decision on your own, you don't have the eagle's eye view of the big picture. So part of what there is to simply say, consult the Holy Spirit in everything
Yes.
and then follow the direction.
Mhm.
This weekend when I was in my course and I'm trying to like, okay, so do I move forward? What do I do? I don't know. Well, maybe, and then we will sit here try to figure it out based on what we can know inside of the world's knowledge. But all that really is for us to do is to simply go within and ask Spirit, guide my steps.
Mhm.
And then the answer becomes clear.
Mm-hmm.
And then all there is for you to do is act.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes what Spirit tells us to do, it feels, the word that comes to mind is antithetical. Maybe that's how we came, but it feels like the opposite of what you should do. Because normally you guys were run by ego. So ego will tell you do this, but then Spirit tells you to do that. So when sometimes there's a choice to make and you feel like, but that seems scary, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Until you really are strong in spirit, you have to just go on faith. That if you ask Spirit and Spirit told you to do X, that you do X, even if it feels like you should do Y. Every decision, how you live your life. But for you to be able to get strong in that, you got to put a practice in place. I mean, the reason I like this, it makes it simple. This has the text, which gives you the theory and the rationale behind it, but it also has the lessons. And if you just take on these, and these lessons take usually less than 10, 15 minutes a day. And it's incrementally moving you up, 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 up. And it's a journey. There's nothing to rush. There's nowhere to get. But you have to make a choice to do it. What do you pour into yourself every day? What do you read? What do you watch? What are you listening to? In every leadership or business course I've ever taken, one of the main things the successful people tell you is that they have a daily practice of reading something inspirational and uplifting. Every single one. I will dare you to find me a successful person who will tell you that they don't have a daily practice.
Absolutely.
Now that what they're listening to or that's different. I mean, for some people, it's like, how do I make more money? I mean, that's the thing they want to do. And so they're reading and pouring into themselves strategies and way to make more money. If you want to be loved, I mean, whatever that looks like for you, but you have to have a practice. Is what you watch every day is the news, and you're watching fighting and distress, and every day you pour into yourself that the world's coming to an end and it's bad, wrong, dangerous, then that literally is what you are creating more of for yourself. I don't watch the news for the most part. I don't. Why? Because I don't want to pour that into me. I want to pour into me that God has its hand on everything that's happening. And I always want to know, what's my part? What's the role I should be playing? What do you want me to do? How do I spread my light? My one part. So if my part is to come on Sundays from 1 to 2 with Rissandra and talk about this, then I'm doing my part. If my part is to teach women how to love themselves, mind, body, and spirit, so that they can go out and be that love and light for themselves in the world, then that's my part. And whether someone understands why beauty is important or not, that's not for me to worry about. Because a long time I felt bad about the fact that I love beauty. You know, the world have me feel like beauty pageants and things that, that showcase beauty are shallow or wrong. No, God made us beautiful. There's nothing wrong with celebrating beauty. I like it. I loved being in beauty pageants. People made me feel, they didn't make me feel bad because I chose to accept it. But I chose to accept people's judgments on my desire to model. Because they were like, oh, you're so much more than that. You're smart. You should be an engineer. I didn't want to be an engineer. But I listened to the world. Whatever God has put on your heart as your ministry, as your love, as your light to share, honor that. And you do it wholeheartedly. And you don't worry about how much people want to pay you or don't pay you or any of that. What Spirit just told me, you don't have to charge anything ultimately for the work you do, because I have a whole other plan for you around your bills getting paid. Like, haven't I provided for you already? And I was like, yeah. Do you want? I was like, no. So don't tie your mission with your bank account. No, don't do. Y'all listen, all I can tell y'all is when you choose to walk with God, a way will be made where you could never have anticipated it. You'll be like, Really? God had me show up at a stock trading workshop this past weekend. I wasn't thinking about trading options. I'm like, what? I don't know about all that. And then next thing I know, but because Spirit told me to go to one event and at that event sign up for this, and that. In the last month, you guys, Spirit has gotten me trained, developed, and connected with a whole community. Oh my God, that's creating.
Yes.
That's crazy. And
Yes.
totally not what I would have thought. But that's because I've chosen to be obedient. Even
Yes.
when I don't feel like getting up and I'm tired and I'm not feeling good, I'm confronted with all my stuff. Doesn't matter. I do it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
God, the love and the light is real. We have a birthright for good health, for
Yes.
good wealth, and for happiness.
Yes.
But you can only realize that birthright if you give up trying to do what the way the world tells you. The
Yes.
world is crazy. Oh my God, the world is crazy.
I
Girl.
so feel you on that, Kanaya. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what happened with me in this whole production of this audio book. I'm telling you, I told myself, hey, I give at 10 o'clock, I'm turning the app off. No more Ubering after 10 o'clock. I've worked all day off. I turn the thing off. I'm heading down 285, and then I get this message inside, turn the app back on. I'm like, in my mind, I'm wanting to say, but I just said I was tired. I turned that app back on. I ended up in a place that really, really, really shifted everything related because I basically put it on the shelf because I said my bank account does not say that this will be happening anytime in the near future. So the project is still done. God gave it to me 10 years ago. So basically, it's there. And when the time is right, it will come off the shelf. And the time was right because the resources came right there to me instantly. And I was basically given an opportunity out of this world to produce this audio book with the support of students, a whole team of students putting together the documentary and the audiobook production. And it's just unreal. I mean, this is
Because
how
you turned
God
the
works.
Uber app back on.
Because I turned the Uber back on. I mean, it wasn't about the ride. It wasn't about the $21, I think the trip was. It was about the conversation I had with the gentleman in my car who I thought by looking at the name, hey, Thor, oh my God, this is a cartoon character or something. I mean, there was all kinds of thoughts in my mind about it. But that was the ego side trying to get me to think this is nothing worth your time and effort. You need to go ahead and get your rest. Because if you don't get your rest, XYZYZ, but I said yes, and it was awesome. And I just really I invite all of our listeners, all of our viewers, if you feel that what we are sharing with you is beneficial, I want you to know that you can support us in many ways. You can support us by clicking on the like button, clicking on the share button, and sending it to a friend and having them to say, oh, I'm going to tune in next week, or adding to the discussion. But then you can also visit my Kickstarter page because it's launched on Friday, I believe it was Thursday or Friday. So we have about 36 days, 37 days left. This is a 40-day campaign. And all I'm really looking to do is raise the money for the reproduction. We want to, have CDs of the audiobook and then DVDs of the documentary that is going to document the last 10 years in which this book, Thank God for the Shelter, Memoirs of a Homeless Healer, has been transforming lives, literally transforming lives. And so I would love personally your support in this campaign because I realize that not only are the lives that have been touched already going to benefit from this audiobook, because the audiobook is something that you can carry around, and on your phone you can access it. You can access it on your MP3. It'll be on iTunes, it'll be on Audible, it'll be on all of those different platforms that allow you to download audiobooks. But realizing that some people do not have the capacity to read a book in its entirety. Some people, it might be just because they're little ADD, if you want to put a label on it, and they just can't focus for that long to sit there and read. Other people literally have challenges with reading because they didn't complete, fifth grade level of school. I mean, there's many reasons why an audiobook is so beneficial, especially to women in transition, and which is my target market. I am really looking to support women who are the leaders of these families. They have children and they're actually living in shelters or transitional homes. And we have to use our skills, gifts, and talents and stories to encourage them on their journey. Because when they see she did it, I can do it too, then that's real. If it's just a mind or a thought, maybe I could, then that's something that's still kind of illusory. But if you can show them that, hey, I went to this dark place, and in this dark place, I chose to listen and hear. What is it that you have for me in this world? What is it that you want me to take out of this situation? How can I be a support to others experiencing this? If I did not go there, I would not have the compassion that I have for individuals that are in transition. Believe me, I didn't have this mindset before I went there. I would see people on the side of the road asking for money and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, how you asking me for mine? I work hard for mine. I got mine. You get yours. That was my mindset. And now I am a totally different person. Not to say I throw money everywhere, because money is not what people that are in shelters or homeless really need. It's not that they need money. That they need somebody to say, I see you. You're not invisible. You are divine. You are a part of me. You are my sister. You are my brother. I care. I love you. This is what they need more than anything, because it's hopelessness that they are experiencing. Prosperity is all around, abundance is all around. Nobody needs money. You don't need money. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking to find your inner wealth. You're looking to find and rediscover the essence of everything inside of you. And when you do and you tap into that, then you can turn into, for me, an author of 6 books. You can turn into an international public speaker. You can turn into so much of what God has created you for in the beginning. That's what you're looking for. And so that's why I share my story. Not because I want to wallow in what happened to me. It's because my experience, my experience is transforming lives. And so I hope you will support me in that effort. And Kanaya, she always has something good that she's got going on. You got anything you want to share with our listeners and viewers that they can maybe support you in?
You know,
Hmm.
the biggest thing that people can support me in is allowing me to support them. It
Yes.
really, the campaign, what I'm launching is people getting on the path to wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So if you visit my Kanaya A Diva Medicine Woman page, you will see that there's an option to join my inner circle. And it's real simple. You fill out a wellness intake and allow me to create a wellness plan for you. And
Mm-hmm.
you agree to take on your mind, body, and spirit wellness. That's how you can support me, because that's my love to spread.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately what I'm up to right now.
Right.
And it looks different ways, but the inner circle is for those people who are a yes to their wellness,
Mm-hmm.
and will allow me the honor of supporting them in that journey.
Yes, yes. That is awesome. So,
All
do
right.
you have any closing words or I think we're at 2:24.
And then
We
we're
started
really
a little
complete
bit
here.
late. Yes.
But just the only thing, I mean, just here's what it is: get on your path to knowing your true self.
Mhm.
And whatever that looks like for you. But just know that anything and anyone who tells you that you are not perfect, whole, and complete is not speaking with God's voice.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, that's it. That is it. So as we close, we want to start off or close out the same way we began this session, and that is in this divine sacred space. So please relax yourself. Take slow, deep breaths in and out, bringing your attention to the breath of life, the breath that moves through your entire body, feeding your cells, bringing in oxygen, and taking out carbon dioxide. This perfect vessel that transports us all around the world doing the will of God, doing your will, my will, because our will is the will of God. We acknowledge this body. We acknowledge it as a master transporter. And we acknowledge that we are spirit beings just habitating this body. We acknowledge that the divine presence within us is everywhere, evenly present. And this knowledge, the intelligence, this feeling, this knowing, it is divine, it is light, it is love. We are just so grateful for this time that we have had to share. Grateful for allowing the testimonies of our lives to be a, a light on a path that may have seemed so dark for some, but now there is a vision. There is something that we can hold on to and move toward. We know that guilt cannot stay in a place where God is because they cannot coexist. So we release all guilt. We release it into the ethers because God can take all things, even the illusions, recycle them and turn them into joy and peace. And so we celebrate. We celebrate the atonement. We celebrate the at one-ment within us. We know that our lives rest in the cause. And because of that, the cause being love, the cause being God, that means the effect is also love. So we thank you, Mother, Father God, divine presence within, for unity, for peace, for love. Ashe and amen. Amen. All right.
Thank you, V. Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you. Peace and love.